Admiral Deho stood in the center of the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council's meeting place. The room was huge, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. Around him sat creatures from 12 different worlds, each one stranger than the last. The Velkari looked like giant lizards with smooth, shiny skin that changed colors when they talked. Their ships were the biggest in the fleet, covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities with one shot. The Thornax resembled huge insects with too many legs and clicking mouths. Their ships were alive, grown instead of built, with weapons that shot acid and poison. The Nexari were made of living crystal that sang when they moved. Their vessels were beautiful geometric shapes that glowed with inner light. Even the smallest Nexari ship was 10 times bigger than anything humans had ever built. Deho felt very small among these aliens. His uniform looked plain compared to their exotic armor and biosuits. Behind him, through the large windows, he could see the human ship Taekwondo floating next to the alien fleet. It looked like a tiny metal box next to the alien giants. Captain Boram was aboard the Taekwondo, waiting for the Council's decision. She had been chosen to command humanity's first ship in an alien war because she was smart, brave, and never gave up. The aliens didn't know this yet. All they saw was a small ship from a young species that had barely left their home planet. So this is what the humans bring to fight the Devourers? Ambassador Veltar of the Velkari pointed one clawed finger at the image of the human ship on the big screen. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. This tiny thing? Laughter filled the room. It sounded strange because each alien species laughed differently. The Velkari made deep rumbling sounds. The Thornax clicked their mandibles rapidly. The Nexari created musical chimes, but the meaning was clear in every language. They thought the human ship was a joke. Dr. Hyun-ae, the chief engineer aboard the Taekwondo, was listening to the meeting through the communication system. She was working in the engine room, checking systems that the aliens had never seen before. Her hands moved quickly over controls that looked simple but controlled technology beyond alien understanding. "They think we're weak," she said to Lieutenant Nari, who was monitoring alien communications from the bridge. "Let them think that," Nari replied. Her job was to listen to everything the aliens said and watch everything they did. She had learned their languages and studied their tactics. She knew they were making a big mistake about humans. The Thornax Queen Speaker leaned forward on her 6 legs. Her voice sounded like breaking glass when she spoke. "The Devourers have destroyed 17 star systems. They turn entire worlds into raw materials for their machines. What can one small human ship do against such power?" Admiral Deho kept his face calm, but inside he was angry. These aliens had invited humanity to join their fight, but now they were making fun of human technology. They didn't understand that humans built things differently. "Our ship may look small," Deho said in a steady voice, "but Earth's engineers solve problems in ways you have not considered. We build for purpose, not for show." More laughter came from the Alien Council. The Velkari Admiral Komin, who commanded the entire alien fleet, stood up to his full height of 3 meters. His scales shifted to a bright red color, which meant he was amused. "Purpose?" Komin said. "The purpose of a warship is to destroy enemies and survive battle. Your ship has thin armor, weak shields, and weapons so small we can barely detect them. What purpose does this serve except to die quickly?" The alien fleet had 847 ships. Each one was a masterpiece of advanced technology. The Velkari dreadnoughts carried plasma cannons that could melt through solid rock. The Thornax hive ships could grow new weapons during battle. The Nexari vessels had shields that could stop anything the aliens had ever seen. Compared to this massive armada, the single human ship looked helpless. The aliens saw its plain metal hull and simple design, and assumed humans were primitive. They thought Earth's technology was thousands of years behind their own. They were wrong, but they wouldn't learn this until it was too late. Tactical Officer Jiwoo was running final checks on the Taekwondo's hidden systems. To alien sensors, the ship looked like it had basic engines, simple computers, and weak weapons. The aliens couldn't detect the 7 Odin arrays hidden in the ship's hull. They couldn't see the Newton drives that could accelerate the ship faster than any alien vessel. They had no idea about the gravity mines or the quantum batteries. Humans had learned something during their long history that the aliens had forgotten. The best weapons were the ones your enemy didn't know about. "Captain," Jiwoo said quietly to Boram, "the aliens are still scanning us. They think our weapons are toys." Boram smiled. She was a small woman, but she had the kind of strength that came from never backing down from a fight. Good. Let them keep thinking that. How long until the Devourers arrive? 3 days, replied Dr. Taewoo from the science station. He was humanity's expert on quantum physics and had designed many of the ship's secret weapons. The alien fleet will meet them at the Kepler Gate. That's where we'll show them what human engineering can really do. The council meeting was ending. The aliens had decided to let the human ship join their fleet, mostly because they thought it would be entertaining to watch it get destroyed quickly. They gave the humans a position at the back of the formation, far from the main battle. "Stay out of our way, humans," Ambassador Veltar said as the meeting broke up. "When the real fighting starts, try not to get in the line of fire. We wouldn't want your little ship to get hurt." Admiral Daeho bowed politely. "We understand. We will do our best not to disappoint you." As the aliens left, talking among themselves about how amusing it would be to watch the human ship flee, Daeho activated his communication link to the Taekwondo. "Captain Boram, you heard all of that?" "Every word," she replied. "They have no idea what's coming. The Devourers will be here soon." "Are we ready?" Boram looked around her bridge at her crew. These were the best humans Earth had to offer. They had trained for years for this moment. They carried with them the hopes of their entire species and weapons that would change the galaxy forever. "We're ready, Admiral. Time to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity." Space itself seemed to break apart near the Kepler Gate. Reality twisted and tore like fabric being ripped by invisible hands. The stars flickered and bent as something massive pushed through from another dimension. Captain Boram watched from the bridge of the Taekwondo as the first Devourer construct emerged from the dimensional tear. It was huge beyond imagination, larger than Earth's moon and shaped like a perfect geometric puzzle. Its surface was covered in moving parts that shifted and changed as she watched. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Nari from her communication station. She had studied the Devourers for months, but seeing one in person was different from looking at reports and pictures. "It's beautiful and terrible at the same time." More constructs followed the first one. Each was different in shape but similar in size. Some looked like giant spheres covered in spikes. Others resembled enormous triangles with glowing edges. All of them moved with purpose, spreading out into a formation that showed they were intelligent and dangerous. Dr. Hyun-A was in the engine room, watching her instruments carefully. The Devourers were scanning everything in the system, learning about the alien ships that waited to fight them. "They're fast learners," she told the captain through the communication system. "They're already figuring out how the alien weapons work." The alien fleet was spread across space in a formation that had won battles for thousands of years. Fleet Admiral Komen commanded from his massive flagship, the Stellar Dominance. His ship alone was bigger than most human cities and carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. "All ships, prepare for battle." Komen's voice boomed across the communication channels. "Concentrate fire on the lead construct. Show these machines the power of organic intelligence." The alien Armada opened fire. The sight was amazing and terrifying. Hundreds of ships shot their weapons at the same time. Plasma beams bright as suns streaked across space. Quantum torpedoes that bent reality around them raced toward their targets. Energy weapons that humans didn't even have names for lit up the darkness. The attack hit the lead Devourer construct with enough force to crack a planet. For a moment, the alien commanders thought they had won. The construct's surface glowed white-hot where the weapons struck. Then the glow faded and the construct was still there, completely undamaged. "Impossible," Admiral Komen said, his scales turning pale with shock. Nothing could survive that much firepower. But the Devourers had done more than just survive. They had learned. The surface of the construct had changed, developing new armor that could absorb the alien weapons. In just minutes, they had adapted to become immune to attacks that had taken the aliens centuries to perfect. Tactical Officer Ji-woo was monitoring the battle from the Taekwondo. "Captain, the Devourers are starting their counterattack. They're using copies of the alien weapons against them." The Devourer constructs began to fire back, but instead of using their own technology, they shot perfect copies of alien weapons. Plasma beams identical to Velkari cannons struck Velkari ships. Thornax bioweapons were turned against Thornax hive ships. The aliens found themselves fighting their own technology. "This is impossible," Admiral Komen repeated. His ship shook as Devourer weapons hit it. The shields that had protected his vessel for decades were failing against weapons designed exactly like his own. "How can they copy our technology so quickly?" Dr. Tae-woo, the quantum physicist aboard the Taekwondo, had the answer. They're not just copying the weapons, he explained to his crewmates. They're copying the physics behind them. They understand how energy works in ways we're still learning. The battle was turning into a disaster for the alien fleet. Ship after ship was being destroyed as the Devourers used alien technology, better than the aliens themselves. The Thornax Queen Speaker's flagship, Mandible Prime, exploded in a ball of bioorganic fire. Nexari crystal ships went dark as their own energy weapons overloaded their systems. Lieutenant Nari was receiving desperate messages from across the alien fleet. Captain, they're calling for retreat. The Velkari have lost 30 ships. The Thornax are down to half strength. The Nexari commanders are saying this is hopeless. Captain Boram watched the destruction with calm eyes. She felt sorry for the aliens who were dying. But she also knew this was exactly what human strategists had expected. The aliens had spent so long being the strongest species in the galaxy that they had forgotten how to fight an enemy who could learn and adapt. Mr. Jae-sung, she said to her weapons officer, are the Odin arrays ready? Jae-sung checked his instruments. Hidden throughout the Taekwondo's hull were 7 railgun systems that the aliens had never detected. They were simple weapons that fired chunks of metal very fast, but they were based on physics the Devourers had never seen before. All 7 arrays are charged and ready, Captain. The Devourers still don't know we have them. And the Newton drives? Dr. Hyune smiled from the engine room. Ready to show these machines that humans understand momentum better than they do. The alien fleet was falling apart. Admiral Koman's ship was burning and barely functional. Half of his fleet was gone and the other half was scattered and confused. The Devourers were pressing their attack, moving closer to finish off the survivors. Human ship. Koman's voice came over the communication system. It was weak and filled with pain. You must retreat now. This battle is lost. Save yourselves while you still can. Captain Boram looked at her crew. These were humans who had volunteered to fight in a war that wasn't theirs. For aliens who had laughed at them just days before, they could have run away and no one would have blamed them. But humans didn't run from fights they could win. Admiral Komin, she replied. With respect, this battle isn't over. You've been fighting the Devourers the wrong way. You're trying to overpower them with superior technology, but the Devourers can copy any technology they see. Then how can we win? Komin asked desperately. Boram's smile was visible in her voice. You can't, but we can, because humans don't rely on superior technology. We rely on superior thinking. The Taekwondo began to move for the first time since the battle started. It had been sitting quietly at the back of the formation, looking small and helpless while the alien giants fought and died. Now it started flying toward the Devourer fleet. What are they doing? Asked a surviving Nexari captain. That tiny ship can't possibly hurt those constructs. Admiral Komin watched in amazement as the human ship flew straight toward certain death. They're going to sacrifice themselves. Brave but pointless, but humans had not come to the galaxy to be brave and pointless. They had come to win, and they were about to show the galaxy that winning wasn't about having the biggest weapons or the strongest shields. It was about understanding the rules of the game better than anyone else. The Taekwondo flew toward the Devourer fleet and something impossible began to happen. The ship started to change shape. What the aliens had thought was one small vessel began to unfold like a flower opening its petals. Sections of the hull that looked like armor plating separated and spread apart. Hidden joints and connections revealed themselves as the ship transformed into something completely different. Admiral Komin stared at his view screen in shock. What are the humans doing? Their ship is falling apart. But the ship wasn't falling apart. It was revealing its true nature. The Taekwondo wasn't one ship at all. It was 7 ships connected by cables so thin they were invisible to alien sensors. Each section had its own engines, its own weapons, and its own purpose. Impossible, whispered the surviving Nexari captain. How did they hide this from our scanners? Dr. Tae-woo, working frantically at his station aboard the command module, knew the answer. Human stealth technology was based on simple principles that the aliens had overlooked. While they focused on exotic energy shields and dimensional cloaking, humans had perfected basic electromagnetic tricks that made their ships invisible to advanced sensors. The 7 sections of the Taekwondo spread out in a perfect formation. Each one was about the size of a large airplane, but they moved together like they were part of one mind. Quantum entangled communication systems let them coordinate instantly across vast distances. Captain Boram was in the command module. the brain of the distributed ship. "All sections report ready, Captain," said Tactical Officer Ji-Woo. "Odin arrays are charged. Newton drives are online, and the Devourers still haven't figured out what we really are." The Devourer constructs were moving to surround what they thought was one small ship. Their massive forms dwarfed the human vessels, but size wasn't everything in space combat. The Devourers had spent the battle learning to copy alien energy weapons and shield technology. They had no experience with what humans were about to show them. Odin 1 through Odin 7 target the gravitational weak points in their formation, Dr. Tae-woo announced. His calculations showed exactly where to hit the Devourer constructs for maximum effect. "Fire when ready." The Odin arrays fired simultaneously. But they weren't energy weapons like the aliens used. They were railguns, magnetic catapults that launched solid metal rods at incredible speeds. Each rod was the size of a telephone pole and made of tungsten, one of the hardest metals in the universe. The rods flew through space faster than most alien ships could travel. They carried no exotic energy signatures that the Devourers could analyze and copy. They were just chunks of metal moving at nearly the speed of light, carrying the kinetic energy of nuclear weapons. The first rod hit the lead Devourer construct dead center. The impact was devastating. The construct's adaptive armor, which had easily absorbed alien energy weapons, was designed to deflect and absorb energy attacks. It had no defense against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The tungsten rod punched through the construct's hull like a bullet through paper. The kinetic energy converted to heat instantly, melting everything it touched. Internal structures that had been designed to resist energy weapons simply vaporized under the intense physical impact. "Direct hit," Jae-sung reported from his weapons station. "The construct is breaking apart." The massive Devourer construct, which had seemed invulnerable just moments before, began to tear itself apart from the inside. Chain reactions spread through its systems as the kinetic energy of the tungsten rod destroyed critical components. Admiral Ko-min couldn't believe what he was seeing. "How is this possible? Our most powerful weapons couldn't even scratch that thing?" The answer was simple but revolutionary. The aliens had spent thousands of years perfecting energy weapons because they were elegant and sophisticated. They could be adjusted, modified, and improved with advanced technology. But humans had taken a different approach. Dr. Hyune smiled as she watched the Devourer construct break apart. "Captain, the other constructs are starting to analyze the attack, but there's nothing for them to copy. It's just metal moving fast." The Devourer machines were confused for the first time in the battle. They had learned to copy every alien weapon by understanding the energy patterns and technological principles behind them. But the human weapons weren't based on advanced technology. They were based on basic physics that couldn't be improved or modified. A tungsten rod moving at near light speed was just a tungsten rod moving at near light speed. There were no energy signatures to analyze, no exotic particles to study, no dimensional effects to understand. It was the simplest weapon imaginable, and that made it impossible to defend against. "Odin arrays continue firing," Captain Boram ordered. "Target their communication nodes and power systems." More tungsten rods streaked across space. The Devourer constructs tried to adapt their armor to resist kinetic impacts, but physics wouldn't let them. Matter striking matter at relativistic speeds followed simple, unchangeable rules. The energy had to go somewhere, and that somewhere was into heat and destruction. A second construct exploded as multiple rods hit it simultaneously. Then a third. The Devourer fleet, which had seemed unstoppable against the alien Armada, was being systematically destroyed by weapons that any civilization could have built if they had thought to try. "The humans are using kinetic weapons," reported a surviving Thornax observer. "Primitive projectile weapons firing solid matter." "Primitive?" Admiral Ko-min laughed bitterly as he watched another Devourer construct break apart. "Those primitive weapons are more effective than all our advanced technology combined." The remaining Devourer constructs began to change their tactics. Instead of trying to copy human weapons they couldn't understand, they started moving to avoid the tungsten rods. Their massive size, which had been an advantage against alien energy weapons, now worked against them. They were too big to dodge quickly. Lieutenant Nari was monitoring Devourer communications. "Captain, they're trying to coordinate an attack on us. All remaining constructs are focusing on our position." Captain Boram nodded. She had expected this. The Devourers were intelligent machines that learned from their mistakes. They had figured out that the small human ships were more dangerous than the massive alien vessels. "Time for Phase 2, she announced. "All sections prepare for evasive maneuvers." Mr. Sunho engaged the Newton drives. Chief Pilot Sunho activated systems that made the alien pilots dizzy just thinking about them. The Newton drives were reaction engines that could accelerate the human ship sections to speeds that would turn most aliens into liquid. But humans had evolved on a heavy planet with dangerous weather. Their bodies could handle forces that would kill most galactic species. The 7 sections of the Taekwondo began moving in patterns that defied alien understanding of space combat. They accelerated at 50 times the force of gravity, changing direction in ways that should have been impossible for ships carrying living crews. "How are they surviving those accelerations?" asked a stunned Nixari captain. The answer was simple human engineering. The ship sections were designed around human biology, with acceleration couches, pressure suits, and medical systems that treated extreme forces as just another engineering problem to solve. As the human ships danced through space, avoiding devourer attacks with impossible agility, something else was happening. Hidden devices scattered throughout the battlefield began to activate. Dr. Taewoo had been waiting for this moment. "Gravity mines are online, Captain. Ready to show them what happens when you use physics itself as a weapon." The gravity mines activated all at once, and space itself began to bend. These weren't weapons in any way the aliens understood. They didn't shoot energy beams or launch missiles. Instead, they amplified something that was already there: the gravitational pull of the star system's planets and sun. What had been gentle tugs became powerful forces that grabbed at everything nearby. The nearest devourer construct suddenly lurched sideways as an invisible hand pulled it toward the system's largest planet. The machine tried to correct its course, but its engines weren't designed to fight against gravity that had been artificially strengthened by human technology. "What's happening to them?" Admiral Koman asked from his damaged ship. He watched in amazement as the massive enemy constructs began moving in strange patterns, pulled by forces they couldn't see or understand. Dr. Taewoo smiled as he watched his gravity mines work. "We're not creating new forces, Admiral. We're just making the existing gravitational field stronger. The constructs are being pulled around by the same forces that keep planets in orbit around stars." Another devourer construct slammed into a companion vessel as both were caught in overlapping gravity fields. Their attempt to maintain formation failed as each machine was pulled in different directions by forces they had never encountered before. The human ship sections continued their impossible dance through the battlefield. Chief Pilot Sunho pushed the Newton drives harder, accelerating his section at forces that would have crushed alien bones. But human bones were dense and strong, evolved on a world where gravity tried to break everything that lived. "Section 3 to command," reported one of the other pilots. "I've got 2 constructs trying to box me in. Requesting permission to demonstrate human persistence hunting." Captain Boram grinned. "Permission granted. Show them why humans never give up." The human ships had been built with one philosophy in mind: when prey runs, humans follow. When enemies retreat, humans pursue. The 7 sections spread out and began harassing the devourer constructs like wolves hunting much larger animals. They didn't try to destroy the constructs directly. Instead, they used their superior speed and agility to stay just out of reach while launching tungsten rods at critical systems. Engine mounts, sensor arrays, communication equipment. Each attack was small but precise, designed to cripple rather than kill. "They're wearing them down," observed a surviving Nixari captain, "like predators exhausting larger prey." Lieutenant Nari was coordinating the attack from her communication station. "Captain, the constructs are trying to adapt to our tactics. They're learning to predict our movement patterns." "Then it's time to stop being predictable," Boram replied. "All sections implement random navigation protocols and activate the quantum batteries." Dr. Hyune had been waiting for this order. Deep in the engineering section of each human ship component were batteries unlike anything in the galaxy. While the aliens had been firing their exotic energy weapons, the quantum batteries had been quietly collecting every missed shot, every explosion, every bit of waste heat from the battle. Energy could not be created or destroyed, only changed from one form to another. This was one of the most basic laws of physics, so simple that advanced civilizations often forgot about it in their pursuit of exotic technologies. But humans had built their weapons around this simple truth. Batteries are at full charge, Yuni reported. We've stored the energy equivalent of the entire alien fleet's weapons fire. The human ships began to glow with collected energy. It wasn't exotic matter or dimensional manipulation. It was simple heat, kinetic force, and electromagnetic radiation that had been captured and stored in quantum containers. Tactical Officer Ji Woo was calculating firing solutions. Captain, if we release all this energy at once focused through magnetic fields, we turn their own weapons against them, Boram finished. Do it. The 7 human ship sections suddenly stopped their evasive maneuvers and formed a perfect line, facing the largest group of devourer constructs. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the background radiation of space. Then the humans released everything at once. The collected energy of hundreds of alien weapons, stored and focused through human engineering, erupted from the quantum batteries in a coherent beam of pure destruction. It wasn't an exotic energy weapon that the devourers could analyze and copy. It was simply the accumulated firepower of the entire alien fleet, returned to sender with human efficiency. The beam struck the devourer formation with the force of a small star. The construct's adaptive armor, which had learned to resist alien energy weapons, was overwhelmed by the sheer amount of energy hitting it. There was too much power to absorb, too much heat to dissipate, too much force to deflect. One by one, the devourer constructs simply stopped existing. Their molecular bonds were overwhelmed by energy levels that exceeded their ability to adapt. They didn't explode or break apart. They just ceased to be, their matter converted back to energy by forces beyond their ability to control. Impossible, whispered Admiral Koman. They're using the energy from our own weapons. The surviving alien ships watched in stunned silence as the human vessels systematically destroyed an enemy that had seemed invincible. The Devourers, machines that had consumed 17 star systems and adapted to every weapon they faced, were being defeated by physics itself. But the battle wasn't over. The remaining Devourer constructs had learned something new. These small human ships were far more dangerous than they appeared. The machines began to retreat toward the dimensional rift they had emerged from, hoping to escape and regroup. They're running, reported Jiwoo. All remaining constructs are heading for the rift. Captain Boram knew this was the most dangerous moment of the battle. If even one Devourer construct escaped, it would carry knowledge of human tactics back to whatever intelligence controlled them. The machines would adapt, find countermeasures, and return stronger than before. Set course for the dimensional rift, she ordered. All sections prepare for final engagement. Dr. Hyun Ai checked her instruments. Captain, if we let them escape, they'll learn to counter our weapons. But if we follow them into that rift, we might not be able to get back out. Boram looked around her bridge at her crew. These humans had volunteered to fight in a war against machines that had destroyed entire civilizations. They had come this far, and they weren't about to let the enemy escape to threaten other worlds. Then we don't let them escape, she said simply. Prepare Protocol Sejong. The crew exchanged glances. Protocol Sejong was named after a Korean king who had given knowledge to his people so they could protect themselves. It was humanity's most desperate tactic, using their own ships as weapons to ensure the enemy could never return. Ma'am, Sunho said quietly. Protocol Sejong is a one-way trip. Captain Boram smiled. Not necessarily. Humans are good at finding ways to survive impossible situations. That's how we got to the stars in the first place. The 7 sections of the Taekwondo accelerated toward the dimensional rift, chasing the fleeing Devourer constructs. Behind them, the alien fleet watched in awe and growing hope as the small human ships raced toward what might be their final battle. The 7 sections of the Taekwondo reached the dimensional rift, just as the last Devourer constructs were preparing to escape. The tear in space rippled with strange energies that hurt to look at directly. Beyond it lay the unknown realm where the machines had come from. Captain Boram made her decision quickly. All sections form barrier formation across the rift entrance. Don't let a single construct escape. The human ships spread out in a line, their Newton drives pushing them into position with acceleration forces that would have killed most aliens. But humans had evolved to be tough, and their ships were built to match their stubborn nature. Chief Pilot Sunho gritted his teeth as his section took position directly in front of the largest fleeing construct. Section 5 in position, Captain. If that thing wants to get home, it's going to have to go through me. Dr. Taewoo was working frantically at his science station. Captain, the dimensional rift is destabilizing. If we can disrupt it at the right moment, we can trap the remaining constructs in normal space. How long do we have? Boram asked. Maybe 5 minutes before the rift collapses on its own. But if we wait that long, some of the constructs might escape. Lieutenant Nari was monitoring Devourer communications. Captain, they're broadcasting to each other. They're sharing information about our weapons and tactics. If even one of them gets through that rift. Boram nodded grimly. She understood the stakes. The Devourers were learning machines. Every piece of data they gathered made them stronger. If they escaped with knowledge of human capabilities, they would return with countermeasures. Then none of them escape, she said firmly. Prepare the conservation of energy drive. Dr. Huni's hands froze over her controls. Captain, that system has never been tested in combat. The energy release could destroy us along with them. Better that than letting them loose in the galaxy with our secrets. The conservation of energy drive was Dr. Huni's masterpiece. Built on the simplest and most fundamental law of physics. Energy could not be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. During the entire battle, hidden systems throughout the human ships had been collecting every form of energy they encountered: heat from weapons fire, kinetic energy from explosions, electromagnetic radiation from alien shields, gravitational potential energy from their movement through space. Even the tiny amounts of energy released when atoms decayed naturally. All of it had been captured and stored in quantum containers that bent space-time to hold more energy than should have been possible. How much energy have we collected? Boram asked. Yuna checked her readings and her face went pale. Captain, we've stored enough energy to power Earth's entire civilization for 1,000 years. If we release it all at once, we'll give the Devourers a physics lesson they'll never forget. Boram finished. Begin charging the discharge system. The human ships began to glow with barely contained energy. The quantum batteries that had seemed like simple storage devices revealed their true nature as reality-bending weapons that could store the power of stars. Admiral Koman watched from his damaged ship as the humans prepared for their final attack. What are they doing now? He asked his science officer. Sir, our sensors are reading energy levels that should be impossible. They're somehow storing the power output of our entire fleet. The fleeing Devourer constructs realized they were trapped. The small human ships blocked their escape route, and the dimensional rift was becoming unstable. They turned to fight, bringing their most powerful weapons to bear on the barrier of human vessels. Energy beams that could crack planets struck the human ships. The constructs had copied and improved every alien weapon they had encountered, creating attacks of devastating power. But the human ships absorbed every shot, their quantum batteries drinking in the energy like sponges soaking up water. They're feeding our own weapons back to us, observed Tactical Officer Jiwoo with grim satisfaction. The more they shoot, the stronger we become. Captain Boram watched the energy readings climb higher and higher. The conservation of energy drive was approaching critical levels. Soon they would have to release the collected power or risk losing control of forces that could tear apart the fabric of space itself. All sections, prepare for coordinated release, she ordered. Target the center of the Devourer formation. Focus everything through the magnetic field generators. The 7 human ship sections aligned themselves in perfect formation. Their magnetic field generators, originally designed for navigation in space, were repurposed to focus the collected energy into a single coherent beam. Dr. Taewoo made final calculations. Captain, if we release this much energy in a focused beam, it will create a cascade reaction in the local space-time continuum. The dimensional rift will collapse and anything caught in the energy release will be completely destroyed. Including us? Boram asked calmly. Possibly. The mathematics are uncertain at these energy levels. Boram looked around her bridge at her crew. These humans had come to the galaxy as representatives of a young species that most aliens considered primitive. They were about to demonstrate that sometimes primitive solutions were the most effective ones. Any regrets? She asked. Lieutenant Nari smiled. Only that we won't be around to see the aliens' faces when they realize what just happened. Chief Pilot Sunho laughed. Captain, if we survive this, we're going to have some great stories to tell. Dr. Hune's voice was steady as she announced, Conservation of energy drive at maximum charge. Ready for release on your command. Captain Boram took one last look at the Devourer constructs that had terrorized the galaxy. They were powerful machines, capable of adapting to any technology they encountered, but they had never encountered humans before. "Fire," she ordered. The collected energy of the entire battle erupted from the human ships in a beam of pure destruction. It wasn't exotic matter or dimensional manipulation. It was simple energy, transformed and focused through human engineering into the most powerful weapon the galaxy had ever seen. The beam struck the Devourer formation with the force of a supernova. The construct's adaptive armor tried to absorb the energy, but there was simply too much of it. Their molecular bonds were overwhelmed and broke apart at the most basic level. The Devourer constructs didn't just explode, they ceased to exist. Their matter converted back to pure energy, by forces that exceeded their ability to adapt. The energy cascade spread through their formation, destroying each machine in turn until nothing remained but glowing particles scattered across space. The dimensional rift collapsed as the energy release destabilized local space-time. The tear in reality sealed itself, cutting off any possibility of more Devourers arriving from whatever realm they had come from. For a moment, space was filled with light brighter than the system's sun. Then slowly the glow faded, leaving only empty space where the Devourer fleet had been. Admiral Koman's voice broke the stunned silence. "Human ships, please respond. Are you still there?" Through the fading energy, 7 small shapes became visible, battered and scarred but intact. The sections of the Taekwondo were regrouping into their original configuration. "We're here, Admiral." Captain Boram's voice came across the communication channels. "The threat has been eliminated." As the alien fleet slowly approached the reforming human ship, Admiral Koman transmitted a message that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "Human Captain Boram, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for our earlier assessment of your capabilities. How did you accomplish what our entire fleet could not?" Boram's response was simple and humble, but it carried the pride of a species that had climbed from caves to the stars through determination and clever thinking. "You didn't underestimate our capabilities, Admiral. You underestimated our perspective. You build weapons to impress your enemies. We build weapons to defeat them. You tried to match the Devourer's advanced technology. We used basic physics that they couldn't adapt to because it's built into the structure of reality itself." She paused, looking out at the debris field that had once been an unstoppable force. "And the next time someone laughs at human engineering, Admiral, you might want to remember that we're the species that looked at the fundamental forces of the universe and decided we could make them work better." The Taekwondo turned toward home, its mission complete. Behind it, the alien fleet followed in respectful formation. They had learned something important that day. In a galaxy full of advanced technology and exotic weapons, sometimes the most powerful force was simple human stubbornness, combined with a basic understanding of how the universe really worked. The humans had not just won a battle, they had earned their place among the stars.